Thank you very much, sir. My colleague, Councillor Cedar Hill, what's his name again? Current Cedar Hill, the councillor. Now, political leader of the United National Congress, Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa, Senior Counsel. My fellow MPs, and I see two senior MPs, well, senior members of the party, deputy political leaders. I see senators. I see the chairman, the hard-working chairman of the Princestown Regional Corporation. I see councillors. I see aldermen. And I see my good friend, my colleague MP, Mrs. Michelle Benjamin. Give her a round of applause. Now, I was sitting next to Michelle, but I was scared because Michelle just beat men. She beat Gypsy. Up to now, Gypsy can't run a good carnival. She have him Tizik. She have him Bazodi. She beat Love. Well, Love will run. Love will quite in South Africa. He take in front and he run when he hear Michelle around. And when she was a councillor, she beat a fella called Real Thomas. I hear he going off. He talking to himself with the licks. And you see Michelle, she training a set of women to beat people. I see Miss Nicole Gopal. She come here and she has shared licks. The workers see me to get her out of the thing, and she going to beat them, whether it's in the courts or whether it is an election. Right? So I am here today hopeful that Princestown Regional Corporation, every councillor is going to be from the United National Congress. And that is why, come hell or high water, whatever they do, we have to go out in full force and show them, and show them that Lengua Indian work is we own. It belongs to the United National Congress. It was conceived by the UNC. We christened it in the UNC. We baptized it in the UNC. We did puja in the UNC. And we did our Islamic prayers so that it will remain with the United National Congress. Now, I'd be a little jealous of Michelle, because she's in a marginal constituency and she's got all the resources. They're fixing road, bridge, landslip, all kind of thing. In Naparima is a safe seat. So they know they could do whatever they want. They can't win. Naparima born lockdown UNC. But Maruga Tableland under Michelle will become a safe UNC seat. So tonight I'm hopeful. I'm sad because we're suffering under the yoke of the People's National Movement and their wicked leader, Keith Christopher Rowley. They have damaged our country. They have destroyed our reputation internationally. Let me tell you, internationally, Trinidad and Tobago is a joke. It gives us no pleasure to say that. But internationally, Trinidad and Tobago is a joke. Countries left, right, and center telling their citizens, don't come to Trinidad. The United States Travel Advisory say, if you can help it, do not come to Trinidad because of crime. Not only the United States, Canada telling their citizens don't come. The United Kingdom telling the people don't come. Australia telling the citizens beware Trinidad. New Zealand telling the citizens don't come. And Rowley had the effrontery to hold a news conference and say that diplomatically we have excelled in the global village. Nothing could be further from the truth. Brothers and sisters, imagine one diplomat, a German, right, was a victim of crime recently. And we have reports that 3 Saudi diplomats were robbed in Port-of-Spain less than 2 months ago, and they hide it, they sweep it under the carpet. So we ask tonight, Dr. Rowley, tell us if 4 Saudi diplomats were victims of crime in Trinidad and Tobago. Because it means 2 countries, Germany and Saudi Arabia, know about the crime in Trinidad, in our country. You know we are labeled the 6th most criminal country in the world. And we say that that is the P&M legacy for Trinidad and Tobago. That is what they tell they have done to us. It is not only travel advisories, brothers and sisters. The U.S. State Department on Human Rights put us on a watch list. We on a watch list. That is, if we don't improve, we're going to be on a negative list. We are also on a United States trafficking in persons report. Bottom of the thing. There are agencies that rank countries. Moody's is one. Moody's rank Trinidad our finances. Moody's rank us as BA2 in July this year. Just July. BA2. You know what BA2 is? 1 level above junk. Nobody is going to invest in Trinidad because our ranking is 1 level above junk. Now, those of us who are old here will know about Sanford and Sons. Well, our Minister of Finance come and boast in Parliament that we got a stable outlook. When we read it, we see we 1 step above junk. So he remind me of Sanford, buying and selling junk. That is what they have done to our great country. Standards and Poor rate us B minus. Nobody is investing in Trinidad and Tobago. You know what? Under Kamala Prasad Bisesa, we had inflows of foreign investments. Now we have outflows. And people, you know a fella called Philip Alexander? Well, you know he have problem paying money. Million to import a couple millions or somebody else to sue him in court for defamation. He gave up. And he said, you know what? Anybody who could help it in Trinidad, migrate, boss it, leave the country. And here we have people seriously considering leaving our country. Trinidad and Tobago is in problems, significant problems. It was my friend from Councillor Laurent who said that there's fire and there's a problem. Let me tell you something. World data tells us that if an appliance does not arrive at a fire in under 6 minutes, it is a waste of time. 6 minutes, and that is in United States and in England, where they have concrete buildings. We have wooden buildings. And when I drive in Princestown at the fire station, I see one appliance. And I ask if there is a fire in Marak. 6 minutes they have to get there to make an impact. How long will it take that appliance to get to Marak? With pothole all over the place and landslip all over the place. So we have a whole fire service for decoration. It does look nice. And people, officers, FSSO, fire substation officer, FSO, fire station officer, divisional officer, big name and rank, and no appliance. My colleague in Mayaro said that no appliance in Mayaro. So we in joke in Trinidad, we have an Air Force. We have an Air Force, an Air Guard. I am told we have 2 planes. One is a helicopter and a fixed-wing plane. We have about 300 people for 2 planes. And that is a joke in Trinidad. A joke in Trinidad. But tonight, I want to talk serious business. I want you to listen carefully. What Rowley is doing to our country. And let me tell you before I start, I have nothing against migrants in our country. As a human being, as a country that has the great religions of planet Earth, Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, and Orisha, we will help our brothers in Venezuela. But the PNM is creating a crisis for Trinidad and Tobago under our very eyes. And my advice to you tonight, tell your children to learn Spanish. Habla español, por favor, porque es más importante para aprender el idioma. You have to learn Spanish, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Venezuela is laying claim to 2/3 of Guyana. Anybody, you all read about that? 2/3 of Guyana, they laying claim. But you know what? They have also, let me say this easy, they have also laid claim to Trinidad and Tobago. It was no less a person than the Prime Minister at the last conference that he had, news conference. He said that there are maps, official maps that he has seen, which has Trinidad and Tobago as part of Venezuela. So it is not only Guyana, it is all a we. All a we. Now let me tell you, they may say it's Charles talking. But Eric Williams, the founding father of Trinidad and Tobago, warned us in 1970 at a PNM convention that we had to be careful about the Venezuelan colonial aspirations for Trinidad and Tobago. And that is why when they had the Black Power riots, remember that? You heard about that in 1970? With Granger and them. Many of you weren't around, but I was a big old man even then. Right? So I heard, you were there. When we had the coup and the army, Rafik Shah and them fellas had revolted, the Venezuelans said, we want to send in troops to help you and aircraft to help you. Eric Williams said, no, stay outside. Send the guns, but don't come in. And the reason why he did that was because, as a historian, he knew that Venezuela, once they land in Trinidad and Tobago, they ain't going back. So Eric Williams warned us, this is not make-up thing. It is, I could bring documented evidence where Eric said, be careful. So, in fact, it was Selwyn Rand's book, Eric the Man and the Myth. He was unwilling to embrace Venezuelans, and he did not allow them to land troops in Trinidad and Tobago because of this concern. Now I want to tell you, of all the Caribbean countries, Guyana faces the threat, number 1, and guess who's second? We second. We second. We have the most to lose if that dispute does not work out. But hear the story. Eric Williams didn't want troops to come into Trinidad. Documented. You know what this PNM government allowed? Probably, how much Venezuelans we have? Maybe 60,000, maybe 5,000, maybe 300, maybe 100,000. Right? So we have 100,000, probably, Venezuelans in Trinidad and Tobago. And we understand that that could be a problem down the line. I'll tell you why. According to Venezuelan law, every male, when he reaches 18 years, has to register to join the army, the Guardia Nacional. They go for 2 years. They have to serve. Now, this I've read where it's about 200,000 Venezuelans reach the age of 18 every year. But out of that, 50,000 join the army, and they spend 2 years of national service, and then they go about their business. How are we so sure? I asked the question tonight. How are we so sure that among the Venezuelans in Trinidad are army-trained, top-of-the-line Venezuelan ex-soldiers? So the Venezuelan army is a serious army with serious weapons, serious guns. So you see the fella walking down the road and you smiling and think, no, I'm not saying Venezuelans are bad. And I'm not saying that good cannot come out of this relationship. But I'm saying we have to be careful. Not so? We can't wake up one day and realize that we have a problem. Now, here the other problem. Venezuelans are not treated the best in our country. We know stories. We know stories about Venezuelans, how they're suffering and things. What is to stop a future Venezuelan government from saying we don't like the way Trinidad and Tobago treat our citizens and we go in there to protect our citizens and take it over? It might be, people will say these conspiracy theories, but in a serious country, we have to think about these things and factor them into our planning as we move forward. There is an axiom in geopolitics. I'll give you a little bit. I was at the UN, so I'll give you some geopolitics. They say if you are next to a powerful neighbor and that neighbor sneezes, what happened to the smaller country? They catch a cold. They catch a cold. So we're suffering from COVID, geopolitical COVID, or geopolitical influenza, and we do not know it. The PNM has adopted an ostrich-like posture. We see nothing, we know nothing, we see Venezuelans, we hope it work out, we hope they married people like Michelle and da-da-da, and the problem resolved. But it may not work that way. So here what? We going into dragon gas. We ain't getting no gas yet, you know. They say gas is going to come in 2026. 2026, eh? I might be dead. 2026, we might get first gas. What that means, let's assume we get the gas. And now our energy sector is tied to Venezuelan gas, right? Venezuela at any point could turn off the gas if they don't like how we behaving, if we get uppity, if we get fast, if we decide to support Guyana, Venezuela could turn off the gas. And this happened with Germany. When Germany wanted to help Ukraine, Russia provided gas to Germany, and Russia turned off the gas. And Germany went through a period of difficulty. And all I'm saying is we have to think these things through. The PNM could get away with incompetence in Trinidad and Tobago, but they cannot put Trinidad and Tobago's future at risk because of their incompetence. And further, the United States has told Venezuela that if you do not hold free and fair elections in 2024, we put in back the sanctions. So we traveling, Stuart Young and them talking and they doing, up to now, we get more from Guyana than we get from Venezuela. Not so? We have Trinidadians working in Guyana. We have business and investment in Guyana. The Guyanese vice president said Guyana pays our international, they provide us with foreign exchange because our businessmen go there, make money, collect foreign exchange, come to Trinidad, use the foreign exchange to buy import stuff for us. You see, I'm sorry to put you through this kind of geopolitical discourse, but it is important because we must know what is happening. And I don't want anybody to say, I am saying hysteria against Venezuelans. As I said, we are a Christian, Islamic, Hindu, Orisha, right, a people, spiritual people, and we help. But when you help, you have your eyes open and you know the consequences of what you are doing. So hear what? The UNC has been calling on the PNM for a migrant policy, a migrant refugee policy. It must be humane. It must be consistent with international treaty arrangements, because there are international conventions on migrants and on refugees, how you treat their children, whether the children have access to hospitals. And let me also tell you something. If you notice, doctors are telling me that 1 in every 4 births in Trinidad and Tobago is through Venezuela. They are citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, entitled to the same rights as you and me. And I'm saying you cannot have citizens being treated as second-class citizens. And the courts last week ruled that we didn't treat them well and that we had to pay them, I think it's $2-point-something million. That is the consequence of an inept government that does not understand foreign policy and is playing Mickey Mouse with our future. So first we call for humane migrant policies that seeks to integrate Venezuelan residents into our society, and it recognizes the limits of our absorptive capacity. We can't take in everybody. So who we take in, we have a limit, and we treat them consistent with international best practices. Secondly, we need a complete lockdown of our borders so that our social services are not overwhelmed. Dr. Rowley said he went on a Coast Guard vessel and he spent a night. And they probably worked that night. But we know that most of the vessels are tied up in Stobles Bay. And we call on Dr. Rowley, get the bloody boats out in the sea, protecting our coast. The third thing we call on Dr. Rowley and his government, we need an inventory of which migrants are here. Who is here? Who is here? How many men? How many women? How many engineers? How many doctors? How many technocrats? How many energy experts? If we know that, we could integrate them into our society and they could even help us with our challenges. We do not have forensic pathologists. I am told we have Venezuelan forensic pathologists pumping gas in gas station in Trinidad and Tobago. You see the nonsense that's going on in this country? The fourth thing we ask of Dr. Rowley is that the Venezuela-Guyana crisis, see it as an opportunity to use our skills, to be world-class diplomats. Eric did it. Dr. Rowley cannot do it. He is friends of Venezuela and friends of Guyana. Oh God, they call it interlocutory skills. Put them together and help them resolve the issue. You can't play words and dance. You have to frontally call for a meeting with Maduro and the Guyanese and let them sort it out. Trinidad and Tobago will be a great first world country for doing that. And lastly, we should use whatever leverage we have at Venezuela to help them move towards free and fair elections. If they do not have fair elections next year, sanctions reimposed by the United States. And it means drug and gas is in trouble. So we could use this crisis to help us. We can use our migrant population not only to fill crucial skills gaps in our country, but also to serve as a catalyst for exploring trade and other links, not only with Venezuela, but South and Latin America. In other words, use the Venezuelans because they trade. There's a fish and thing, and they bring in goat and all kind of thing. That is the start of a trade. Well, oh God, use them so that we could develop trade with South and Latin America. That is what a sensible country would do. So, those of us who know foreign policy and those who know about serious government know that Dr. Rowley and they is playing fast and loose with our future. And one day we will wake up and realize that it is más importante para nosotros aprender el idioma español, because we may very well end up unwittingly screaming and kicking un estado de la República de Venezuela. Thank you.